Hello everyone, this is Pras from the FPL Wire and this is my Gameweek 16 team selection slash a video on the mystery chip, which is no longer a mystery. And it's always Christmas. Christmas has come early when there's a new chip and there's new permutations. And so what I'm going to do is basically for the first half, let's say if it's half or not, but for the first part of the video, I'll talk about the mystery chip. I'll talk about what are my thoughts, some of the rules, what am I thinking in terms of using the mystery chip, and then in the second half we'll do our standard team selection. So if you're only here for the mystery chip, just listen to it for the first half and then you can leave. And if you're only here for the team selection, just skip to the team selection. So mystery chip, what did we learn today? This chip is basically like an assistant manager where you can buy a manager. That's what you're thinking. So basically it's a 16th player that you can have in your squad, and that player is essentially a manager, or actually it's a club, and I'll explain. So it's available from Gameweek 24. So there's lots of time to think about it. People will come up with their best strategies, best weeks to play it. So don't stress right now about, when should I play it? Who should I basically maneuver this with? I don't think you should be worrying about that right now. Let's just get to grips with this thing, and then we'll do the maths. So you pick a manager or a club. And why I'm saying club is because if a manager gets sacked in the middle, you still get points. So you're actually picking a club. But because it's the 16th player, they're called an assistant manager. And you get their points for 3 game weeks in a row. So that could include double game week. That could include just 3 single game weeks. What happens is every time that club or that manager wins a game, you get 6 points. So theoretically, if you played it in a week, which is basically single game week, double game week, single game week, you get 4 games through the chip. So if they win all 4, you get 24 points just from victory. If they draw one of those games, you get 3 points. Every game that they score, that's 1 extra point, and every clean sheet they keep, that's 2 extra points. So I'll talk about what this means in terms of the potential of the chip. But, early thoughts, it's a huge potential chip. So I will talk about some of the upsides that are available. But let's talk about the other rules. So the manager takes up a slot in your 3 max. So this is why I keep referring it as a 16th player. So just like in 15, you cannot have more than 3 Liverpool or 3 Newcastle. You cannot be in a team which has 3 Liverpool and then pick Arne's slot. That 3-team rule still applies. That 3 player per team. The manager will also cost money. So let's say today you have 0.1 million in the bank. You can't just play it today. You actually have to plan this chip and say, okay, I'm going to play it in Game Week 25. And by Game Week 25, if I have to buy Arne's slot, which I expect to be the most expensive, the premium guys, you have to actually release money and then play the chip, which is actually very annoying. I don't know why you would do that. It's really not built for the casual manager. Like you guys, it's actually really advantageous because you can plan it. You can then plan transfers around it. You can say, you know what, by Game Week 24, because I'm going to play it in Game Week 25, I'm going to be selling Isak. I'm going to get Solanke, release 1.5 million, and then I'll get slot. Now, when you actually play the chip, it doesn't count as a transfer. But you can use transfers on manager. So again, it's a 16th player. So think of it like a 16th player. So for those 3 weeks, you can decide that I'm going to have slot for the double game week, and then I'm going to switch him to Arteta, or I'm going to go for Eddie Howe from game week 24 to 25, and then I'm going to get Amorim for game week 26. Something like that is possible. And actually, given the upside of this chip, I would actually say that's optimal. You should be thinking about using free transfers on the manager because the ceiling of 1 game week per manager is over 10 points, which is actually more than anything else that you use your transfer for. At least that's the initial thinking anyway. If a manager gets a touchline ban or gets a yellow or a red, that does not matter. Again, why I think this chip is more like buying a club, basically a new club rather than a new assistant manager, because it's irrelevant what happens to that manager if they get a red card in the game. This is an important one. No other chips can be played in those 3 weeks. So if you decide to play it in the back end of the season, you might actually conflict with a bench boost or a triple captain or a free hit. So it's going to get a little bit annoying, which is why very easily people will say, oh, the easiest chip strategy is Wildcard 30, play the assistant manager 31 to 33, free hit in 34, bench boost in 36, easy. I think it's not that easy. So this is why in this video, I'm not going to give you, this is the chip strategy. because I think we've only so far scratched the surface in terms of understanding the potential of this chip. It is huge. I think the way to think about it is first find the best window for the mystery chip and then worry about the others, because the potential for this chip is more than a triple captain, more than a bench boost, more than a free hit. But I will talk about the math now. Why am I saying that? So let's say there's two strategies that you can take here. And before I get into the numbers that I have on this slide, let's make it simple. Let's assume that the chip was a triple captain chip, a new triple captain chip. But if you play it on a bottom 10 player, then you get 1.5 times. So let's say if you captain a Cunha, then instead of 4 points for a goal, you get 6 points for a goal. Instead of 2 appearance points, you get 3 appearance points. So actually what you're saying is you've been given a choice that you can captain a not so good player, but get more points from them versus a Salah, for whom you'll get the same points. So there is no right answer, right? It really depends on the situation, what fixtures Cunha has versus Salah, and then you decide. Because immediately they've basically closed the gap in terms of a Salah type potential versus a Cunha type. That's what they've done with this chip, with this 16th player. What they've said is that you will get this additional bonus, which I actually didn't talk about in the previous slide. You get this additional bonus that if your team that you play is 5 places or more higher in the table, then you will get an extra 10 points. So what that means is if Newcastle beat Nottingham Forest are more than 5 in the table, they will get 16 points for the win, which is massive, absolutely massive. The potential for this chip is so big, especially because early in the season you get discrepancies. And I'll talk about the last section here is basically opportunity. So I will talk about that. So let's use an example now. There's a big team, let's call it Liverpool. They play 4 games, which includes 1 double game week. Let's say they win 3 games, they draw 1 game, and in that scenario, they score 10 goals and keep 2 clean sheets. I don't think this is unrealistic. In 4 games, Liverpool can score 10 goals. I think, 2.5 goals per game, realistic. 2 clean sheets out of 4, also realistic. Winning 3 games, drawing 1, reasonably realistic, I think, for a Liverpool type team. That's 35 points from the chip. 35 points is not that something that you can easily get from a bench boost. Like, think of your bench boost. It's your worst 4 players. Even if you play it in a double game week, it's playing twice. It's 16 appearance points plus whatever they get. 34 is hard to get. Think about your triple captain. Triple captain, that Salah game, you remember the Salah triple captaincy where he played Norwich and Leeds at home? He got 26 points. People will think about it as, no, he didn't get 26 points, he got 78 points. But that's not the math, because other people also captain, right? Captaincy is still available. So you have to only think about the impact of the chip. So that chip, that highest ceiling chip, even Andy Martin's De Bruyne, I think it was 28, 29. He scored 29 points. He didn't score 29 times 3. So a triple captain in the best upside fixture is still not crossing 30. Very hard to cross 30 in a triple captain. And then free hit, as you know, free hit can actually score even negative points. Yes, it can have high potential. But in this case, you will definitely get positive points. You are not getting anything negative. So basically, coming back to, this is the biggest chip that we've got in the game, and it massively favors the engaged manager. So if you're one of those, and if you're listening to this video, pretty much you are, and moreover, if you've not had the best of starts, this is like a silver spoon given to you on an opportunity. And now this is where calibrating risk comes into it. I could say, look, I'm just going to go for this Liverpool double game week. I could just say I'm going to go for this 34 points, which seems reasonable. In an upside case, Liverpool end up scoring 15 goals and keep 3 clean sheets. I can get to above 40. But you, if you're chasing, can say, actually, I don't care about this stuff. I'm going to go for, Daesh in the double game week. I'm going to hope that Daesh keeps Liverpool to a draw. They get a couple of upsets in that 4 game week run, and they lose one. And I could score 50, 60, 70 points. And that's where the big upside is in this game. So if you're a chaser, there is an opportunity here. If you want to keep it as a balanced and like a safe EV, then also 30 to 40 points is right there for the taking. So people just assuming, I'll play it in 31 to 33. I think that's very wrong. We have to really think about it. Let's look at the fixtures. We may even change our mind immediately. Let's say we're in Gameweek 23 and Newcastle are just on the cusp of 5 places behind their next opponent, and you feel it's a home game. Or Brentford's home form, we know there's a big discrepancy. So Brentford have 2 games at home And those home games are against teams that are slightly above them, but more than 5 places above them. It's possible. It could be Brentford home to Bournemouth. Back Brentford to win. That's a 16-point win. So basically, we have to think about fixtures. We have to really nail down when the doubles are. And then once we have our mystery chips set, then we decide when to play the other chips. That's my position here. So this is the first point in the opportunity, where right now, earlier you play it, the earlier there is opportunity. So I've used this Nottingham Forest versus Newcastle example. Villa is 5 places higher than Spurs. Spurs are home to Villa. You play Ange Postecoglou. Of course, Spurs are unpredictable, so it's not really a great example. Let's use Man United. Man United home to Villa. Play the Amorim chip. Of course, it's not a guarantee, but you're taking a huge upside if you're right, and if Man United beat Villa at home. Because it doesn't differentiate, right, if it's home or away. So there will be places where people will say, you know what, this 3 game week window is massive, and I'm going to use it. Maybe even if there's no double game week, like it could be used without one. Of course, it will be helpful if there is a double game week. You even maximize it even more. But this chip has a lot of potential, and people have not yet thought through how much potential it has. So I just wanted to give that warning. You could play it in a window, for example, where this is the second point in the opportunity, where there's a cup final, right? Game week 28 happens before the Game Week 29 Cup Final. So there's 4 teams in the Cup Final. Let's say you find a team that is playing this team that is in the Cup Final who will play a rotation team, and they're 5 places above. So again, using an example, let's say Brighton make it to the Cup Final, or Newcastle make it to the Cup Final, and now you have a team like, what can I use? Wolves playing Newcastle at home, and you think Newcastle are going to rest a lot of their players. Back Wolves. But of course, it has to dovetail best with other fixtures as well for Wolves, where you can back them. Or I would even say it's worth using free transfer. So this is the fourth point I have. The value of moving, let's say, from a Wolves that is playing Newcastle that will rotate in the cup, moving to a Newcastle that may play a Nottingham Forest that we think that Newcastle are good at home, moving to a Brentford that could play a Brighton at home, and we think Brentford could beat Brighton, could be worth free transfers. So what this does is basically it means that if you play the chip, be prepared to use transfers as well. It will go hand in hand, and it'll be much more value accretive than actually using transfers on your other 15 players, if you see what I mean. And then finally, there is this bonanza of last 3 weeks, or basically playing it in the end. Now, I know there's bench boost and there's other things, but imagine playing it in game week 36, 37, 38. There's so many goals. There's so many upsets because there's teams that have low motivation. They're on the beach. Or there's teams which are scrapping relegation. How many times have we seen like a team that is 17th or 16th, like an Everton, beating other teams because they're fighting for relegation? You back that manager and you basically make a 90-point return on your chip. So I think there's so many opportunities with this chip that we just need to chill out with when will we play it and just kind of set it in stone. And this will all evolve as we find out about where the other doubles are placed. So don't just assume we'll play it for the Liverpool double. So I would say for people who have their triple captain, I would actually be comfortable saying just get it out of the way. If it's in 25, 26, use your triple captain and then be open. Unless in that window, we find a better mystery chip opportunity, or we should call it assistant manager opportunity. So in terms of a few issues with the chip, I think what is one of the issues is basically it also has some negatives, right? When you play it, like you'll be using free transfers during that period on your manager, or you could be using. So your team may suffer a little bit. So you could think about playing the mystery chip leading up to a wildcard, or play the mystery chip after a wildcard. So for example, game week 30, if you wildcarded and you played mystery chip 31, 32, 33, that's going to be very popular, by the way, which I'm saying be cautious. But you could basically say, I will set aside from in my wildcard 1.5 million, get the manager I want. I will release that money once the chip is played, and I will shore up my bench for the bench boost later. Very nice. So that could work well. But equally, you could play the mystery chip before, release the money once the chip is done, then wildcard out of it. So dovetailing it with other chips will also come into it. So something we'll need to think about as well. The other issue it creates is, let's say we play the mystery chip in the Liverpool double game week. Now, this basically means that you've got Arne Slot, but you don't have, or you can't have, a Van Dijk or an Alisson, because I'm assuming, okay, everyone or most people will have a Trent or a Salah. So basically, there is upside of getting the win, but you'll also lose out by not having a triple up from Liverpool in that double game week. Now, this will be true at any time, but let's say if you played it in a period where if many teams have a double, then you could still have 11 doublers, just not a triple up from the team whose manager you've selected, if you see what I mean. And then, of course, it conflicts with the triple captain or any other chip that you would want to play. So if the game weeks come tight and you want to play chips in a row, you can't do that. So that's why, in some way, you want to get the mystery chip out of the way quickly as well. Unless there is this 31, 32, 33 window, which we will have to think about a little bit more. So that's all for now. I'm not going to give a magic formula of when to play it. Not yet. I haven't done enough work. The community hasn't done enough work in terms of fixtures. I saw even FPL Review is going to start looking at basically 3-week fixture windows. A lot of analysis will be done on this. So chill out. That's all I wanted to say on the mystery chip. My final say on this is I said on my tweet, I think it's a little bit disappointing as a chip for the game. Like if they wanted the game to be more popular, if they wanted the game to grow, then this is not a chip that you want like, your co-workers and those guys to increase engagement with. Like you try to explain this and they're like, okay, I'll play it this week. And you go, oh, no, you can't play it till game week 24. They reach game week 24. They say, okay, I'll play it this week. You go, no, you have to have 1.5 million in the bank. They say, okay, I'll sell this guy and I'll have 1.5 million in the back and then I'll play the chip. And you go, no, you also have to sell your third Liverpool if you want to get slot. It's just not easy, and it's not basically conditioned for the masses, which we can counter and say that's great because we can then finish, all of us can finish in the top 100k. So that's about it on the mystery chip. So if you were here only for the mystery chip, see you later. Thank you for joining. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new and like the video if you can. I'm going to move on to my team selection video now, which basically talks about my game week review and talking about my transfers. So let's do that now. So, game week 15. I have had a good week and I've had another very lucky week. So, I'm sorry. Like, I have to keep apologizing for the luck. Like, on one hand, Liverpool game getting postponed screws me badly, right? I've used my triple captain chip and this basically, you can see now, like, the mystery chip is very well combined with a double game week, but unfortunately now there's now more double game weeks for people to use their triple captainship. If there was no postponement, everybody would be triple captaining in a single game week, or a lot of people. So, or you could say they would bench boost in a single game week, but you can see what I mean. It's a like for like. They would have to use a chip in a single game week. Now they don't. So it was a blow from that perspective that the game got postponed. It was always a possibility, so I own it. Yes, I took a risk and it didn't work out. But the positive is, I was selling Boomo. It was in my team selection video. Friday night, I'm ready to sell him, and I'm like, okay, let's just wait. Even if Trent is rising, why should I, 0.1 doesn't change anything. Let's wait, and the game gets postponed. What does that mean? I end up keeping Boomo, so that's the one big positive. I get 13 points from him. I don't get Semenyo, who didn't do anything. And I end up basically also not getting Trent, who didn't play. So I get 1 extra point from, let's say, a Pinnock. So it adds up, right? So that's 14 plus, and minus is just 2 from Semenyo. Even if I had benched Semenyo, I would have, he would have come on because Salah wouldn't have played. So this is the reality. I benefited from 14 points. I got 6 from my triple captain, 20 points. So I think that the postponement doesn't really matter that much. It's okay. So that's one thing that I wanted to say. The other thing is, what can I say? Like every week it's either Saka or Isak. One of these guys shine through for me. And these are the two guys that I've always seen as like the upside picks for me. Because a lot of people have Palmer, Salah, Boomo, Cunha, a lot of people got. So one of these guys, if they keep showing up, that's the edge. And that's what got me the nice green. And of course the Palmer penalty. Like that was bloody luck. Like a lot of people captain Saka, and I don't think it was that far off. Like I still think Palmer was a good captain, was the better captain. Spurs are always leaky, but to get 2 penalties is lucky. So happy with the outcome, but I acknowledge the fact that I'm having a good season for a reason. 25k rank now, which is absolute nosebleed. I don't think I've been this high ever, this early. So we'll see where we go from here. Let's talk about next week. Which is game week 16. So projected goals and assists or clean sheet odds As usual, Arsenal is top. Now, I'm recording after the teams have been announced for the Arsenal game, and there is no Gabriel in the squad again. So I'm going to be talking about what that means for me. But Arsenal are highest in clean sheet odds again. If you have a Timber, if you have a Raya, if you have a Saliba, beautiful. Like, hopefully Gabriel is fine as well. But if you don't, then this is good. Then I think it's a much of a muchness. Like, Newcastle and Liverpool are second and third. So Hall, great potential if you have him, play him. And then it's a decent window to get in a Trent. I don't think it's an essential window, because think about Liverpool, then they have Spurs after this. So you could equally get Trent or another Liverpool defender in game week 18 as well. I'm doing it because my defense looks shambolic and I need to make a move. So why not make a move for a guy who's third in clean sheet odds and has good potential, and I want to keep long term. So that's the reason why I'll be looking at Trent. But people who can't get there, don't get FOMO for Trent this week. I think you might as well prioritize an Arsenal pick if you're going to keep them long term. So in terms of projected goals, it's going to be a big week. I mean, this is going to be a bumper week. You have 7 teams over two goals projected, which is nice. Like, over 2 goals is good. So Chelsea, I think, Palmer should be good. Jackson should be great. Enzo should be okay. I'll talk about Enzo a little bit. I did talk about him in the pod as well, but I'll talk about him. I think with Newcastle, Isak looks great. If you are punting on Gordon, it's a good window to do that. Liverpool, of course, Salah looks great. Arsenal, Saka looks good, high potential. Everton at home. Spurs, if you're still holding on to any Spurs picks, they're away to Southampton. This isn't the week necessarily to get rid of them. I saw some people looking at Solanke to Isak. I mean, do you really want to do it? I mean, yes, clearly Isak is the better pick. He's more expensive though. So are you making sacrifices for a game where actually Solanke could do okay? Same for Son. Then you have Man City, but nobody wants Man City picks anyway, right? So we don't need to talk about them. No, I'm joking. I mean, look, it's a good fixture for Man City. Man United at home. Man United have looked leaky, but I wouldn't be captaining Haaland still. Like, even if I owned him, I think Palmer's fixture, even Salah's fixtures are better this week. Then you have Bournemouth, high potential. West Ham. I want to say they looked better against Wolves, but West Ham are very, they're more bad than good. They have the odd good appearance, but otherwise they're bad. So Bournemouth, high potential. Evan Nilsson, Semenyo. And then even Wolves and Brighton, they're both at 1.8, but I would, home to Ipswich for Cunha, for Strand Larson, for João Pedro. Maybe they'll deliver. Maybe. So that's where we are for this week in terms of clean sheet odds. So let me talk about my team. I've got Raya in goal. He's reliable. Hopefully he's fine, and he should be fine. Then I've put Trent here now. I've not made the transfer yet for Trent because 99% I'll be getting him in. He's already played his Champions League game, and 99% I'll be selling Pinnock, because Pinnock is not playable in any week apart from maybe next week Nottingham Forest at home. But even then, I don't trust Brentford's defense. So 8 Nouri, very happy that he avoided the yellow card, so he's playing Ipswich at home. And then Gabriel. If Gabriel is even seen in training, or even there is a much more positive outlook, or there is some assurance that he should be okay longer term, well, I'm going to keep him anyway. So the idea is, what do I do with Lewis? So if I don't have confidence that Gabriel is starting, then I might do Lewis to Colwill as my third free transfer. Remember, I have 3 free transfers because I got to carry one last week because I did nothing. And so I could basically, for my third free transfer, do Rico Lewis to Colwill or even Munoz. Like, right now, I think Colwill is just okay. He's a good long-term pick. I don't need to punt on Munoz, who could get a 5th yellow tomorrow. Just get Colwill and be done with it. So that's the Gabriel side of things. But hopefully I don't need to do that, and I can carry my third free transfer. So it would be 8 Nouri, Trent, and Gabriel in defense. In midfield, there is a change. Bumo has gone, so I'm quite sad about that. But I'm not going to be reactionary. Like, he has had 5-6 game weeks where he scored a couple of returns, which was last week. And I've talked about how I think I got lucky with that. But it's time to go. Like, away to Chelsea is a good window to get rid of him. Home to Nottingham Forest next week is still nice, but even after that, the fixtures aren't great. I'm going to punt on Enzo, not because I think he's an ideal 4th midfielder. I don't think so. I think he's an ideal 5th midfielder, or actually 8th attacker. What I'm trying to do here is basically a long-term hokey-cokey, which is basically get Enzo this week, keep him for 3 weeks, and then eventually what I want to do is take Rodgers up to Eze. Or if Enzo turns out to be a dud, he misses a couple of games, do Enzo to Eze. What I want to do is basically, once Cunha is not playable, bring him down to a Chris Wood or a Raul Jimenez, and basically take Rogers or Enzo Fernandez up to an Eze. That's the plan. And so this is why I don't mind going for an Enzo now, releasing some funds, and then upgrading that position or his peer's position a little bit later, which is the nice window to get Eze in. So that's why I've got Enzo. I don't think Enzo will match Palmer. I don't think Enzo will match even Mbumo. But I think it's a good pickup. I think it's a good punt. And so they've got three beautiful fixtures. He's playing 90 minutes every game. I expect in the 3 games to maybe get 1 return. I'd be very happy with 2. I'd be delighted with anything else. So that's basically where I am with him. Have managed expectations, and then in that case, I think it's a nice pickup. And then, of course, my attack is Cunha, Isak, and Pedro. All 11 are playing at home, so very happy with that. And I've got Rogers as a backup for sub, and Greaves is my only other player because Rico Lewis is suspended, remember, for Man United. So, like I said, I think I've made the Enzo move already. I have not made the Trent move. I won't make it even tonight because I don't think Trent is rising. I'm going to wait for Gabriel information and then I'll take it from there. That's it from me. If you like the video, please do like. And again, I think around 60% of you don't subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you do that. Then you can get access to all the other good stuff. Like there's Zoff's team selection, LR's team selection to come this week. There's going to be the main pod. We will be podding every single game week, even during Christmas. So thank you for your support. I will see you next week.